give me a deal. And they were like, no.
Good evening. We on? Good evening. We do have a member of the Minister Alliance with us tonight. Pastor Randy, would you come up, please?
This is actually Jalen Storm's night, but he's ill, and so I'm standing in for him. And a scripture that came to my heart as I was thinking about what you all do, I'd love to have the same audience at church that you all have. You have the whole community. But you also are in a position to carry this out probably better and more effectively than the church. Learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the case of the widows. And I appreciate everything that all of you do in order to accomplish that very truth from Isaiah. I always want to say the gospel of Isaiah because really it's the gospel in the Old Testament. I promised Dana I wouldn't talk long.
I just told you not to have a sermon.
Yeah, she said they'd just start the meeting and
Yeah,
ignore me.
I'll just start
so
the meeting if you.
let's pray together.
All right, thanks.
Father, thank you so much for each one of these that do such an awesome. From the Alderman here to City Hall to the department to the Parks Department. It's everywhere, Lord. This city tries to get it right. And I thank you that you've let Becky and I enjoy that in this atmosphere for many, many years. Lord, we pray these things, giving you thanks and honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Randy, we appreciate you. We know
Thank you.
a lot of them may not know, but Randy's retiring, and so we appreciate you. Thank you for being here tonight. And maybe another time, if we have more time, I'll let you preach. Well, it's, you know, we're being recorded right now, so for the record, we have a good relationship, so I'm not just putting you down. Yeah, all right. Love you, Randy.
Love you too. All of you.
Good evening. I call the February 6, 2023 Board of Aldermen meeting to order. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Callie Netto,
Here.
Rachel Kilmer,
Here.
Jeremy Taylor, Jim Shrout,
here.
Pam Pope,
Here.
Tracy Newcomer, here, and Mayor Dana Webb.
Here, thank you. The next item on the agenda is new business, deletions, or continuances. We do not have any of those tonight, so we will move on to public comments. City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
There are none.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. These items are considered on the consent agenda so that the Board of Aldermen, by unanimous consent, can designate routine items to be approved by one motion. Tonight, we have approval of the January 17th, 2023 Board of Aldermen meeting minutes and expenditures through February 2nd, 2023.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We do not have any of that tonight, so we will move on to our first item of new business. The first item is discussion, consideration, and possible action for Bill Number 23-03 regarding an ordinance approving the final plat, Edgewood Villas, Plat 2, and plat of land located northeast quarter 8 North, Range 29 West, Oak Grove, Jackson County, Missouri.
That's me.
Is that you, Tom?
It
There
is
you
me.
go.
Thank you, Mayor. Edgewood Villas, Plat 2. This plat is located east of Southwest 12th Street and north of Southwest 15th Street. It sits And the board for District 17 came to an agreement for us to provide water to them. The infrastructure has been completed, and they're currently working on some final punch list items. The preliminary plat for Edgewood Villas 2 was approved by Planning and Zoning on September 15th of 2020, and was set to expire 2 years later on September 15th of 2022. On July 18th of 2022, this board approved an ordinance 2040, which extended the expiration date to September 15th of 2024. This plat was approved by Planning and Zoning on January 18th of this year, with the only item was that we fixed the name of the streets. Originally, the plat had Southwest 12th Street labeled as R.D. Mize Extension and Southwest 15th Street as R.D. Mize, which were the old county names. In accordance with our code section 405.425, the plat meets a condition therein and is substantially the same as a preliminary plat and meets all the requirements for R1 zoning. So therefore, the staff recommends approval of the final plat for Edgewood Villas Plat 2.
Thank you,
With that,
Tom.
I'll happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for city staff?
I move for first and second reading by title only of Bill number 2303.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the, proposed ordinance, bill number 23-03, by title only. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. City Clerk, would you please read the full title of the bill 2 times?
An ordinance approving the final plat, Edgewood Villas Plat 2, a plat of land located in the northeast quarter of Section 6, Township 48 North, Range 29 West, Oak Grove, Jackson County, Missouri. An ordinance approving the final plat, Edgewood Villas Plat 2, a plat of land located in the northeast quarter of Section 6, Township 48 North, Range 29 West, Oak Grove, Jackson County, Missouri.
I move for adoption of bill number 23-03.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the adoption of bill number 23-03. Any discussion? If not, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Kelly Netto,
Yes.
Rachel Kilmer,
Yes.
Jim Shrout,
Yes.
Pam Pope,
Yes.
Tracy Newcomer.
Yes.
The motion is approved, and the bill number 23-03 becomes ordinance number 2062. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action for bill number 23-04 regarding an ordinance approving the final plat, Oaks of Edgewood Plat 13, a plat of land located southeast corner of Section 31, Township 49 North, Range 29 West, and northeast quarter of Section 6, Township 49 North, Range 29 West, Oak Grove, Jackson County, Missouri. Can you say all that without looking
And
at
I
it?
actually know what
Clear
that-
as mud.
Yeah,
Being a
Clear
surveyor,
as
I know
mud.
actually know what all that means, so
I
being
know
a surveyor.
exactly
so-
what you're
Yeah, it's all on the plat.
It is. Yeah, this is for Oaks of Edgewood Plat 13. This is generally located, I mean, you gave a nice description of where it's located. Generally located west of the existing homes of Oaks of Edgewood off of Chickadee and along Tent Terrace. So you go by you turn off Robinson, go by the clubhouse, keep going straight. This is that subdivision. This is on 13.93 acres. It's zoned R1 with 30 single-family lots and 1 large detention tract for this plat. The detention tract will also serve plats 14 through 19. This phase also includes a new sanitary lift station that will service this and the future 14 through 19 as well. There were 2 off-site sewer easements filed with this plat for gravity lines for this phase to be constructed to the lift station, as well as access easement with a hardened surface for us to maintain the lift station until the ultimate build-out. This area is served by Rural Water District 17 and remains in that district. District 17 will purchase water from us, and they own the meters. They will send us the meter readings. We will bill them for water usage, just like we do on some of the areas already in Oaks of Edgewood, specifically of Chickadee. The infrastructure, with the exception of the lift station, is nearly completed, but has not been inspected yet. The preliminary plat for Oaks of Edgewood 13 through 19 was approved by Planning and Zoning on 7/21 of 2020, and also was set to expire 7/21 of 2022. On 7/18 of 2022, this board approved ordinance, I believe it's 2041, which extended the expiration date to July 21st of 2024. This plan was approved by Planning and Zoning on January 18th of 2023. And also in accordance with section 405.425 of our code, the plat meets a condition therein that code and is substantially the same as the preliminary plat and meets all the requirements of R1 zoning. So therefore, we recommend approval of final plat for Oaks of Edgewood 13.
Thank you, Tom.
With that,
I have a question
Sure.
on you said city will maintain lift station until build out, but then do we continue to maintain the lift station?
Yes.
After
We
build out?
maintain it, we will, it's public infrastructure, so we will maintain it. There is generally a 2-year maintenance bond that goes with it, but, once we approve the infrastructure and get the as-built, it's ours.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions for Tom or city staff?
I move for first and second reading by title only of bill number 23-04.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the first and second reading of the proposed ordinance by title only of bill number 23-04. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. City Clerk, would you please read the full title of the bill 2 times?
An ordinance approving the final plat, Oaks of Edgewood, Plat 13, a plat of land located in the southeast quarter of Section 31, Township 49 North, Range 29 West, and the northeast quarter of Section 6, Township 49 North, Range 29 West, Oak Grove, Jackson County, Missouri. An ordinance approving the final plat, Oaks of Edgewood, Plat 13, a plat of land located in the southeast quarter of Section 31, Township 49 North, Range 29 West, and the northeast quarter of Section 6, Township 49 North, Range 29 West, Oak Grove, Jackson County, Missouri.
I move for adoption of bill number 23-04.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the adoption of bill number 23-04. Any discussion? If not, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Kelly Netto,
Yes.
Rachel Kilmer,
Yes.
Jim Shrout,
Yes.
Pam Pope,
Yes.
Tracy Newcomer.
Yes.
The motion is approved, and bill number 23-04 becomes ordinance 2063. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action for a bill number 23-05 regarding an ordinance of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri, amending 615 of the municipal code to add a new article and sections of 615.100 regarding automatic adjustments to the license and occupations tax for the sale of electric energy and gas services in the city. Before you go any further, Matt, just so that some of you may wonder, this man that's over here looking at our system, he is supposed to be here. So the new people don't know who he is, so. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. A little history on this. Since 1948, the City of Oak Grove has collected an amount equal to 5% gross receipts, which is franchise tax or sales tax, on the sale of gas and electric services in the City of Oak Grove. In order to maintain that same 5% for utilities, for gas and electric, Missouri state statute requires that cities pass an ordinance stating they wish to maintain that 5%. Whenever the Missouri Public Service Commission approves a utility rate increase of 7% or greater, which they did in November 30th of 2022, and approved a utility rate increase for Spire that is effective January 18th, January 19th of this year. So we have 60 days from that date, which takes us to March 18th, to approve an ordinance stating our desire to maintain our 5% franchise tax. So the bill 2305, this in front of this board tonight, would not decrease our franchise tax, nor would it decrease our franchise tax percentage. It would simply maintain the same 5%, that has been on the books for the past 75 years. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have regarding this ordinance, or as best I can, answer the particular increase that the Public Service Commission approved for Spire.
I'm just curious, when's the last time this happened? Do you know? Do you know if it's ever happened?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, this has not been triggered. I believe, and Chris could probably speak to it better than I could, I believe the state statute was amended or passed maybe in the 90s, and so it would have been between then and now where this would take effect. The attached bill in front of you is both for gas and electric, and it would be good going forward. So if this were to come up again, we would already have that ordinance in place. Spire did get approved for 2 rate increases, but for their Spire East customers and their Spire West customers. In the attached notification, 250 cities received the required notification. I looked up a couple of cities near us, Blue Springs, Grand Valley, for instance. They already have this ordinance on the books, so they may have preemptively approved it prior to the deadline. But the deadline is triggered once the 7% or higher is triggered. I don't know if Chris wants to.
No, I mean, I think you covered it. I don't believe it has been triggered or to affect the city of Oak Grove, at least as far as I know, since I've been here. I did find when this first came up, Matt and I were talking about it, and I found back in, I think it was like 10 years ago, we had a draft of this ordinance. In fact, it's similar to, I used the same one, because there was an electric rate increase proposed, but the ordinance never got adopted, and I believe it was because the rate increase that had first been proposed didn't get approved to be over 7%, so then there wasn't any point in adopting it at that stage. But the ordinance is based on a model ordinance that Missouri Municipal League put together 10-plus years ago and recommended that cities consider approving.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I may add too, I mentioned the Public Utilities Commission, didn't explain what that might be. It's a 5-member commission. They're appointed by the governor with advice and consent of the Senate. They hear rate cases, so utilities go to that commission. They propose a rate increase. That commission then holds hearings where they receive both written and verbal testimony from the utility, from consumer groups, from businesses, or anybody else who wishes to provide testimony. And then they typically, the utility will ask for a higher percentage, and then it gets whittled down, and the commission typically then approves a rate slightly less than what the utilities requested. The commission was, I think, founded in early 1900s, and they're supposed to provide utility rates that give their corporations and their shareholders an opportunity for profit, but not a guarantee. That's the mission of the commission.
Interesting.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Chris.
Second title only of bill number 2305.
A second.
We have a motion and a second for the first and second reading of the proposed ordinance by title only of the bill number 2305. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. City Clerk, would you please read the full title of the bill 2 times?
An ordinance of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri, amending Chapter 615 of the Municipal Code to add a new Article 3 in Section 615.100 regarding no automatic adjustments to the license and occupation tax on the sale of electric energy and gas services in the city. An ordinance of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri, amending Chapter 615 of the Municipal Code to add a new Article 3 in Sections 615.100 regarding no automatic adjustments to the license and occupation tax on the sale of electric energy and gas services in the city.
Move for adoption of bill number 2305.
A second.
We have a motion and a second for the adoption for ordinance for bill number 2305. Any discussion? If not, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Kelly Neto,
Yes.
Rachel Kilmer,
Yes.
Jim Shrout,
Yes.
Pam Pope,
Yes.
Tracy Newcomer.
Yes.
Motion is approved, and the bill number 2305 becomes ordinance number 2064. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action for bill number 2306 regarding an ordinance amending Title II, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, Chapter 210, Offenses of the Municipal Code of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri regarding discharge of firearms or weapons in the city. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Before you this evening is the final wording that we would wish to present for consideration to add discharging firearms or weapons prohibited within the city. Thank you for Mr. Williams for cleaning up my verbiage here, but we were looking at really four things that we wanted to include in this ordinance. We wanted to make sure that we captured all projectile weapons, whether it be air rifles, air guns, pistols, any firearms, and I believe the wording captures all of those. Second, we wanted to make sure that we did allow for the protection of person and property, because we don't want to catch all that even when someone is doing what is in their self-defense, we don't want that to be something that comes back on them. Third, we also understand that there are ceremonies and traditions in a lot of towns related to military funerals, so we don't want to infringe on that. And then also not to cross lines with Section 210, which is, or parts of 210, which are going to give that right to sheriff's deputies, patrol officers in the act of their duty. And so we feel that this is the best wording to add for something that we can enforce. Now, this won't be the last time that we approach Section 210, because this is adding a part to that or an ordinance to that that we can enforce and that we can hopefully discourage the celebratory gunfire. We do know that we need to go back to 210 and address those things that have changed in Missouri law. Because in 210, though it's not it doesn't state here, it still has verbiage that says you cannot carry concealed. We would not enforce that because we know that state law has changed. So we do wish to go back to 210 and change some other items, but we wanted to get on top of the discharging firearms within the city. So happy to answer any questions on that.
I might be opening a can of worms here with this question, so I apologize if I am. But is it normal for code to say you can discharge a firearm to defend property? Is it always specified like that? Like,
Yeah.
that's just the standard wording usually?
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to be into a castle doctrine situation.
That's what I was wondering, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
My question would be, because you brought up for military or celebrations, because I had that happen. I looked out of my window and there were 4 men lined up with rifles.
Right.
And I looked, what are they doing? And it was because there was a funeral for military at the church. Are we notified when they're going to do that?
Usually we are.
Okay.
Yes.
Just curious, because I mean, I didn't know. I just look out and that's all I saw.
Yeah.
But I figured it out.
No.
Still, I'm sure if somebody drove by, they would think, what are they doing?
I think we have even been notified to a small cannon being.
Cannon, okay.
Yeah, discharged.
Duck hunting is what Jim said, but they were not duck hunting that day.
I had the other question that popped in my head when I was reading this was, it says any kind of explosive whatsoever. Does that get into firework territory?
No, it does not. There's a, so part of the thing is that it doesn't have there's no allowance for tripwires or booby traps or spring guns, which are not a problem in this day and age, but used to be, to where people would protect their property by setting a spring gun to where if you hit the wire, you're going to get buckshot. And so any explosive of any type whatsoever is what we're trying to cover.
Okay.
So what about the cannon that the high school uses for touchdowns?
It's ceremonial.
Okay.
It has no projectile that's coming out, and
Okay.
while it does use gunpowder, it's covered under the fulfillment of official duties and as it is a traditional ceremony.
Okay, perfect.
Because you'd even get into a situation of a starter gun at a 5K.
So, yeah.
Or
yeah,
track
I guess.
track
Yeah,
meet.
as long as it's an official duty of what
Okay.
that person is required to do.
So these ceremonies, you don't need a permit or anything?
No,
Okay.
no. But they do, I mean, with just Royers, we are notified of those.
I move for first and second reading by title only of bill number 23-06.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the first and second reading of the proposed ordinance of bill number 23-06 by title only. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. City Clerk, would you please read the full title of the bill 2 times?
An ordinance amending Title II Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, Chapter 210, Offenses of the Municipal Code of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri regarding discharge of firearms or weapons in the city. An ordinance amending Title II Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, Chapter 210, Offenses of the Municipal Code of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri regarding discharge of firearms or weapons in the city.
I move for adoption of bill number 23-06.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the adoption for ordinance from the bill number 2306. Any discussion? If not, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Kelly Netto,
Yes.
Rachel Kilmer,
Yes.
Jim Shrout,
Yes.
Pam Pope,
Yes.
Tracy Newcomer.
Yes.
The motion is approved, and bill number 2306 becomes ordinance number 2065. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action for bill number 2307 regarding an ordinance authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Oak Grove, Missouri and Johnson County, Missouri, by and between Johnson County Sheriff's Office relating to prisoners. Is that you? No, that would be
That's me.
Chief again.
Thank you, Mayor.
There you go.
With any change of administration is going to be change of documents as well. First update to a contract that we have already had in place with Johnson County Sheriff's Department, but now that Sheriff Musterman is in office, everything is redone. So as a police department or a municipal police department, we look at layers of detention in that we are a transitory or processing detention facility only. If we make an arrest and that has a bond associated to that arrest, we are going to process that individual here, and we're going to hope that they bond out within a period of 2 to 4 hours. Understanding that we don't employ jailers, we don't employ any civilian personnel, so the officer is basically tied to the station with that arrest. Somewhat of a, if you catch it, you clean it kind of idea. So we utilize secondary detention facilities to hold those that cannot bond out. And we need layers in that, and that Blue Springs is our primary go-to. We have a contract with Blue Springs that will hold our detentions, but even theirs is for a period of time. And so Johnson County is a contract for us that is a longer-term holding in Centerview, Missouri. And it's probably the best resource that we have around here, because we have toured other county facilities, whether that be Ray, Saline, or Lafayette, that no longer holds. And so Johnson County provides us that best opportunity. There have been some changes. Most notably, it was a $40 per day detention fee. It's now $60 per day. But they have changed other areas that make it more beneficial for us. And so we're comfortable with the service they provide. We have worked well with the Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Musterman to this point. So we're asking for permission to continue using them as a service that we have probably for at least the last 10 years.
Thank you, Chief.
Second reading by title only of bill number 23-07.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the first and second reading of the proposed ordinance for bill number 2307 by title only. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. City Clerk, would you please read the full title of the bill 2 times?
An ordinance authorizing execution of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Oak Grove, Missouri and Johnson County, Missouri, by and between the Johnson County Sheriff's Office relating to confinement of prisoners. An ordinance authorizing execution of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Oak Grove, Missouri and Johnson County, Missouri, by and between the Johnson County Sheriff's Office relating to confinement of prisoners.
I move for adoption of bill number 23-07.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the adoption of ordinance from Bill number 2307. Any discussion? If not, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Kelly Netto,
Yes.
Rachel Kilmer,
Yes.
Jim Shrout,
Yes.
Pam Pope,
Yes.
Tracy Newcomer.
Yes.
The motion is approved, and Bill number 2307 becomes ordinance number 2066. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the 2022 Law Enforcement Block Grant Award and to execute the agreement. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. So we were notified by Missouri Department of Public Safety that we were awarded the LLEBG, or Local Law Enforcement Block Grant, to cover just under $1,600 in equipment purchases. And that requires your signature to accept that award. And that equipment has already been purchased, and we appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
you for writing the grants.
What would you do if we said no?
Yeah. It's very easy. We just send the packet back and I readjust my budget.
Oh,
I make a motion, we approve the accepting of the LLEBG 2022 grant.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve the law enforcement block grant. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action for an agreement to purchase police mobile radios, Motorola, and I'm not going to read all those letters. Chief, you again.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a retread of what I have presented before. In 2022, we were approaching portable, which are the body worn, and then the mobiles. But the supply chain crisis, however it was, we were unable to get the mobile radios last year because there wasn't the ability to order them. We're a small department and competing with the larger departments that are trying to get the same equipment in. So I rolled it over into 2023. We have completed the portable upgrades, the body worn, and we are ready for the encryption switchover, which happens overnight tonight.
Nice.
We're happy to say that in Kaminko's idea in Jackson County, that we are far ahead of a lot of the agencies around here. And so we're moving forward where we need to be and where we should be to make sure that we are encrypted capable. And so now I would like to request your permission to move forward in getting the police mobile radios. The budget is, we anticipated around $70,000. With some benefits, it's just around $65,000. Now we will understand that some wires in the radios that we have may need to be replaced, some couplings, because we're currently using radios that I believe we bought from an ambulance service as secondhand radios themselves. And we've done very well with baling wire and duct tape, and we would like to upgrade those now.
Yes, I think so. What's the typical lifespan on, just curious, for the ones that you're,
Mr. Sherwood, what would be the lifespan of a radio?
12 years.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
When they go obsolete.
Oh, true.
And would emergency management also have one of those radios, or would it strictly be for the police department?
Strictly for the police department.
Emergency management purchased one of these radios last year on the emergency management performance grant, ARPA.
And it will
Grant.
communicate with
And
these
it was to
radios?
communicate with the police department and other agencies in the area. And that radio is in service, as well as a handheld radio.
Go ahead.
Make a
Any other
motion,
questions? Yeah.
make a motion to approve the purchase of the Motorola police mobile radios. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of the police radios. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding an agreement to purchase playground equipment for Frick Park from Miracle Recreation Equipment. Scott?
Yes, so before you is information regards the upper park. And I want to say it was originally installed in 91, 92. And the reason why that became on the radar is because we had a piece of the structure that failed. And so when we reached out to the vendor, and I wouldn't say this was about 8 years ago, 5 to 8 years ago, they no longer made parts for that, and so they actually found a part. And if you go up there, you can see there's a slide that's got a different color. Color didn't match, but it kept the playground in service. So although the steel and plastic playgrounds last much longer than the old wood ones that I grew up to, they still have a lifespan that the vendor will quit making parts for it, and you'll ultimately have to replace it. And so that's kind of where we're at. In addition to that, in 91, when it was site locations have changed, there's a lot more detail and thoughts on site locations, and the fall zone material has changed as well since then. So that's a couple of big things to consider. Site location is the drainage, slope of ground, type of play, height of equipment dictates the type of fall zone material. So that's what was discussed with the park board. This has been discussed for, I think, for quite some time as far as replacing it, where it would be located, whether it went back in the same spot or a different location. And the park board chose to recommend that it go to Lower Frick. We got such positive feedback on the orange and black play structure that's there for when kids play soccer or football, similar with the Webb Park when kids are playing basketball or volleyball or baseball, softball. They've got the playground that the kids aren't participating in the sport, then can go play, and parents are able to watch both. I did look into if it's a good idea to have preschool age kids playground close to the older age kids playground. And after researching that, I found that a lot of cities are putting both of them together because there's sometimes siblings that have that different age span. And so parents are able to take their kids to one location and have the two types of age play. Happy to answer any questions. The park board looked at 3 different styles and chose this option that's before you with the colors.
I do have
In
questions.
front of you, you have the park board.
My first question is, I don't understand removing the upper Frick permanently. My question would be, did the park board consider maybe a splitting this, a small playground in Upper Frick and a small playground in Lower?
The most recent discussions about Upper Frick was more so expanding upon the disc golf and less about having the playground that's up there, because there is some problems with the playground and its location with the hillside. The activity that occurs in that area of the park was also considered. And so we're trying to change the activity that's in that park, and hopefully the disc golf will expand and help with that. That was the goal, is to try to expand upon that and at the same time meet the needs of the parents, so when they take their kids somewhere. And the 2-year-old age group, we don't have really playground that's designed for that, but people would take the younger kids to that smaller playground on Upper Frick to meet that need for that age kid. And so we really wanted to focus on the younger age kid playground, and at the same time we discussed the location. And so it's not that we want the Upper Frick to be forgotten, it's that we want to put the playgrounds together down low and then expand the use that's at the Upper Frick.
I just have to say that I really am struggling with no playground in Upper Frick. There's always been a playground there. It's the one place in town that's a quiet place to have a family picnic together, and we're going to leave it with no place to play. You know, I mean, there used to be tennis court there, used to be
Yeah.
lots of things that went on there, you know, that's where we had Lick Skillet. So I wish that they would have considered still having a small playground up there, using some of the money for that and some of the money for the new playground at the Lower Frick.
Did they consider, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I was on the park board, and this has been talked about like that long, when I was on the park board, and they did consider it. I mean, it has been discussed thoroughly. Unfortunately, what happens is people who aren't awesome people end up camping out up there at that, sit in their cars, and they sit in that parking lot, and the park is not being used by families as much as it had been in the past. So that's kind of why, even when I was still on the park board, that it was, okay, let's bring it down by the other playground where people are at, and soccer is there, and, you know, all these other events that are there, unless I'm speaking out of turn.
No, that is correct. And it's not that we've tried to promote that activity, we've tried to stop that
Yeah.
activity.
Yes.
And a lot of parents have refused to go up there because of the shady activity that happens. So it's, the police have looked into it, we've looked into it, it's a challenge. And it comes in phases, it cycles with ever so many years, we go through a phase like this. But over the career I've had here with the city, I can tell you that we have found lots of benefits to putting playgrounds near activity play, whether it's soccer, football, baseball. It really helps the parents, because when those games are going on, the young kid who's not playing on their brother's team or sister's team, they got a place they can go enjoy their time and not drive their parents crazy.
That makes perfect sense. I still just
Yeah.
don't.
So in their discussion, did they think that maybe if the upper disc golf takes off, then are they looking long-term then to put something back in there? So if you have a disc golf families or tournaments or something, then children or some type of play equipment or something else is in that spot. I guess maybe what I'm thinking is that I understand what Kelly's saying, that makes complete sense to me, but we don't want to abandon the area, so then it becomes more of a nuisance or becomes more of a area for people to hang out. We want to keep it highlighted.
I actually think with the disc golf, once we get that up and running
Okay.
and we get the full 9 holes in and we get layout and we keep improving upon that, you'll see more activity in that upper frick with disc golf. And then you start restricting the areas that you could put a playground, because you'll have Frisbees flying. And so we got to keep that into mind. That side is really kind of sloped, and so it's not the best location for a playground, and it's also very rocky. And so it makes it difficult to put even disc golf, let alone what it'd be to put playground equipment. So that location was chosen prior to even a park board, and so there wasn't as much thought into it. In fact, the playground manuals are after that. So that installation predated most playground manuals, installation protocols.
Sorry. Just 2 quick questions. My first, is it gonna be this blue color, or is it gonna be the orange and the black?
So they recommended this blue color.
Okay.
Can you get it in orange and black?
We can get it in orange and black, yes.
I was just thinking if it's gonna be by the other play, why did they recommend the blue versus the orange and black, since it's gonna be located by that?
It's really just a flavor.
Okay,
It's, yeah.
okay.
You got Green Valley and Oak Grove over there, too.
I don't care. This is.
No, I'm just saying, that might be what they were getting
Yeah.
at. But it is kind of strange that one of them is blue and the other one is orange and black.
Yeah.
I can say that staff likes the orange and black, but we've got some park board members that work for the school district, and they see orange and black everywhere they go. So they are actually happy to see some different colors. I can also tell you that there's one advantage to it. It's like if you're using it and you're like, oh my gosh, I see something wrong with this playground, and you call the park office, and we say, which playground is it? You can say it's this color park, and it helps identify when there is problems that do arise.
I'm just afraid it's gonna look silly by the orange and the black that's already there, but I digress. My second question, is the shelter still gonna maintain being up there at Frick Park for now?
Yes,
Like that's-
yes.
okay.
Yep, we're still maintaining that, and and the park board has talked about putting a shelter down lower area. So there will be, as years
More
continue,
discussion, of
we'll
course.
continue to look in places to add playgrounds, benches, stuff like that. So.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Yeah, my question was about the color. I feel pretty strongly it should be orange and black if it's right next to an orange and black one.
Or if not orange and black, a neutral color
Gray
that goes
or-
with
yeah.
orange and
Yeah,
black.
right.
So,
We can, if you want, it's up, obviously, the board makes final decision. If you would like a different rendering of colors, I'd be happy to work on that for you. Playground's not as critical as time frame as like the aquatic surfacing, but it could possibly take 8 to 10 months to get the equipment in. It is a slow build.
no matter what color it is, it takes 8 to 10 months,
Could
correct?
possibly take 8 to 10 months, yes.
And there's no cost difference in what color you choose?
No, there's not.
I mean, I don't feel like I need a rendering. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I just think either black or,
I think if we didn't already have a structure there that was orange and
It'd be
black,
fine, yeah.
that it would be totally fine to do the
Yeah.
blue, but I agree with you.
I get where the park board's coming
Yes,
from, that they
so do
don't
I.
want more orange and black, because as we know, we all love the school, so if anybody's watching, don't take this that we don't like the school, or we don't like the colors orange and black, but our city colors are not orange and black, and, you know, we've had those discussions that it's kind of good to stay neutral or to stay in city colors, but I see what the board is saying. It's ultimately up to you of what color you want it to be. So, yeah, if anybody wants to make a motion in that area for Scott, you can do that, or we can vote on it as is, or however you guys would like. Are we monitoring that area more because of possible action that happens in the area? Do we watch that
Our monitoring
area?
of that area has even led to people calling and saying, hey, I think there's an officer asleep up there, because we're,
So you are in
we're
that
parking
area,
there.
yeah.
Because it's a high point for the officers to connect with, and they can do their reports and such, so,
And they can look out over
Yeah.
different areas, okay.
yeah. I've even set up there, and it's
I was up
quiet
there
area.
today.
it's a good nap spot.
Yeah, good place, yeah.
Well, during the 100-degree days, it's a shady spot to find, and that's why people are there, because it's a lot of trees to park under.
Yeah, thank you.
I will say that I recently installed security cameras on Frick Tower,
Yes?
the water tower, to watch the gate in the tower. So there is Wi-Fi at the tower, and my cameras can move, so, I mean,
Good to know.
that's a possibility. If you want to install some kind of security, there is internet up there at the tower.
That's good to know.
So when I go up there for my daily Facebook scroll, I can access the internet?
Yeah.
I was up there today. I wanted to look at the old playground equipment, and an officer did drive through while I was there.
Nice.
But I do have to say that I'm still struggling with this decision as far as splitting, so.
One more question. The playground that's currently there, is it a hazard? Can it stay longer? I mean, does it have to come down when this new one goes in, if this new one goes in Lower Frick Park?
Whenever it comes to the point that it's a hazard, it comes out. So there's no choice at that point. Nobody can say that it should stay. If we cannot fix it and make it operable, we have to remove it.
So it is inoperable at this point?
It is not inoperable, that's
Okay.
why it's still in place.
Okay.
But it is, like, if a part fails on it,
Like next week it could be, okay.
I believe the minutes said it would be removed when this was done.
correct. Once the new, if there's nothing that fails with it now, up to the time the new one's installed, the old one will stay in place in operations until the new one's installed, and then we will remove the old one.
Can we leave the old one until it fails? Is there any,
Well, that is one of those things where the plastic is at its end of its life. So it's not really, chances of it lasting another year is possible, but it's really at the end of its life, so
okay.
So
it's
what is the life going to be on this one?
about the same. The
30 years?
UV on lights, UV on plastic hasn't changed since in the 30 years, so
I believe the plaque says 1994.
94?
94
Okay.
is what, yes.
I couldn't remember for sure, so.
So yes, that it can stay until it completely fails, or no? I
Yeah, that
missed
is a yes, assuming nothing goes wrong with with the equipment. And if there is a failure on the equipment, that we would then have to remove. We will always try to fix or correct, but if there is a failure that we can't fix or correct, then it would have to be removed.
Okay.
Makes sense. Just seems like might as well get the last 2 months you can get out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
I honestly would like to say we've been in the last 2 months for a rather long time.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That was one of the questions I had. Is it something that actually breaks on them, or is it because you have to replace because of vandalism, or?
They do
Both?
wear, so like the decking wears, the plastic wears, the stress on plastic, it gets brittle, and
So it's a weather-related thing, then?
and time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the park equipment for Lower Frick Park with the caveat that it becomes orange and black. Is my motion.
Yeah.
Only because there's already one there, but tell the park board I love them.
Yeah, second.
Okay, so we have a motion, or would that have to go back to staff, or can they just make a motion since most of it's in there? Go ahead.
Yeah, you could make a motion
Okay.
for that.
It
Staff
doesn't
will-
have to come back to them.
No, if you, Scott, I mean, we assume it'll
I'm
be the
just
same
making sure
price.
we want to do the right thing.
Yeah,
So
I-
if you approve it for this price point, we'll try to get the same colors.
Okay,
If it costs substantially more, certainly we'll come back to.
There won't
to
be
the
any
board for
cost
that.
increase on color selection.
all right, so you guys are good with that?
And it doesn't need to go back to the park board either. The
Correct.
park board provided their recommendation, the board can take that recommendation or they can change it.
But like Kelly said, Scott can let the park board know.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we have, I have a motion and a second to approve the purchase for the Frick Park playground equipment with a change of color to match the playground equipment at Lower Frick Park.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Well, I got one question to ask.
discussion time, perfect.
The plastics in different color, I mean, does sunlight is what you're getting at, does it affect the different colors differently? One lasts longer than the other?
They don't last longer, they will fade different, so.
Fade different.
Yes, and they have made improvements in the orange. So if you look at the playground that's in Webb Park, that orange had a little bit of a different UV protection than what the one in Frick. So actually, the one in Frick is doing better than the one in Webb, but they are about a year apart. So they are working to try to make things better. It's just, it's hard to make anything last over 30 years with the use of play.
Well, and it's just being in the, I mean,
Sun,
the
yeah.
weather.
I mean, 30 years.
Yeah,
would be
that's a
good.
long time,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, why do you care? Stop it, you can't say that.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding an agreement to resurface the pool at the Aquatic Center. Scott?
So I would imagine you got a lot of questions on this, just because there's a lot to do the resurfacing at our old pool, so I'm pretty familiar with the process. However, the age of our current pool seems kind of young to be already resurfacing. There's two things to remember, one of which is I argued with the contractor when it was being surfaced the first time and questioned the areas that I felt weren't properly three-coated. I did not win that argument, and I'm not saying that that's what caused the problem, but I do think some of that was the contractor and a little bit of discussions. But I also want everybody to remember, we also really searched for anything that would cause cuts to feet. And so we were in there and we grinded the entire surface of the pool several times, trying to find what was cutting feet. I will tell you that I believe we found probably 5 spots, and that's all that was in the shell. Majority of what we found was really on the deck, and kids didn't know when they cut their feet, but they kept thinking it happened in the water. So we did a lot of damage to that liner with the grinding, trying to find things, and last thing a kid remembers this area of the pool. So that we made a policy that if a kid says that we were somewhere in the pool, a lifeguard would go down in with a grindstone and start grinding every square inch, trying to prevent a cut from happening again. I want to say last year, cuts still occurred, but not near as much, and really we had more abrasions, and abrasions you can't hardly stop because you don't want slippage. You don't want the slips and falls, so you will get some abrasion wear on feet. That's common, especially when kids are coming every day and staying in the pool for a long time, and we are blessed with the pool that kids like to stay at. So that being said, the pool's definitely due for a redo. If you've seen it, you can see through the white to the concrete. And when I say liner, it's paint. So it is a concrete pool and the liner is an epoxy liner. A rubberized liner does not mean that it's softer and easier. We could do a rubberized liner but it's the same feel. You would not know the difference between an epoxy liner and a rubberized liner. It's just the type of material. Tanemic is the best. They provide majority of the municipal epoxies for pools and water tanks. And so Tnemec handled the water tank repainting. That was the supplier. I reached out through them. They helped select the contractors, so they qualified the contractors. The contractors came out and looked at the pool. They all studied the same specs that Tnemec had created for our pool for them to follow. They all took their own measurements, and the bids were about as precise as they could be, but they vary quite a bit in cost. I find that we're very lucky to get the bids that we got, and the goal is to get this liner in before the pool opens. The blasting, I think is what they call it. It is a coal slag, so what doesn't burn in the coal plants, that slag is what's used to blast the old liner off before they put the new liner on.
So this AT Swicer, will they repair it, or if it needs caulking, no charge? Is that included in that?
So there is a corner that needs to be repaired. They've included that repair, and they've included the perimeter caulk. The perimeter caulking is something that tends to age over time, and so you'll cut it out and put it back in. We know how to do that. It's a lot, so do it all is nice to have it all done. It takes a lot of time.
Each time it's resurfaced, does that company that resurfaces give a warranty?
It's a year, and pretty much standard, everything's a year. The paint company likes to see at least 5 years before our pool looks like it's 10 years old, just to be honest. And so that tells you how fast this has progressed. So we got 10 years at our old pool with us doing it, so I think we can get over 5 years easy on this liner.
Okay.
You mentioned in here that they would be assisting because they're testing a new product. So where else has it been tested?
So and I want to be clear, the shell liner itself, so the entire pool will get that white or maybe a slight tint of blue paint. That will be the entire shell. The lines is the new product that they're testing.
Okay, I misunderstood.
And so this line is hopes that it doesn't fade. Epoxy fades really bad. And so this new product, it's a urethane base, and they're hoping that they can get away from that fading, and so the lines will look better longer. And so when the shell starts to wear out, your lines are starting to wear out about the same time, as opposed to the lines that go away and people are like, oh, your pool looks terrible, when actually the lines have to be redone.
So what sorry.
I was gonna say, they'll come out and help guarantee that the application is proper. That way they can validate the installation and tell people this product they have, if they follow the application, will last this long. They are applying a discount to the product because we're a test. And this also, I don't know if you noticed in there, they have to add sand aggregate, silicon aggregate in the areas that's shallow, so there's no slippage and falls.
So this should solve all of the foot cutting issues that happen in the pool. I know
So, and I want to be real clear, cuts, we have to search very hard for cuts because we don't ever want cuts. Abrasions will continue. It's a concrete deck, concrete pool,
Yes.
concrete bathrooms, and so abrasions can continue with soft skin.
Have you seen their work anywhere else or had references?
So the Schweitzer company, is that who you're speaking of?
Yes.
I believe he mentioned Schlitterbahn was a place he did. So these are all union prevailing wage companies. They've all been screened by Tnemec and recommended to us.
Okay.
I personally don't know them, but
Yeah.
I do trust the contractors that they put forward.
Scott, how did we wind up with exposed rebar already?
So that's talked about a repair. So they have to expose it down to a rebar.
Okay.
Then they apply a primer over the rebar, and then there's a bonding agent that goes on to make the repair, and then they have to put a bonding agent on that new concrete for the epoxy. So that's all talking about the repair of that corner, for example.
Okay.
So there's not exposed rebar right now.
So am I correct in gathering that it's basically a 1-year warranty that we are hoping for a 5-year lifespan?
So the workmanship's a year. The paint product has really with epoxy, you'll know in a year. It fails or doesn't fail within a year. The typical, and this is where it gets a little rough, typically, it's 5 years before you start seeing any signs of your pool. You'll see some fading, but you won't see to the extent of like what we have at our pool. I will tell you that after going through the pool as many times as we have with the new liner, we will not be sending lifeguards in with grindstones. That literally it will come down to myself going in the water to see what's going on, to investigate an area, because we just will not take that just destroys your liner. But we had so many cut feet, and we don't want kids to have cut feet. And cuts are totally different from an abrasion. I just really want to make that clear. And I found, I think it was the size of a pinhead, and it was a piece of wire that was on the corner of the zero entry. And I don't know why it was there, where it came from. It could have just been in the concrete aggregate from the concrete plant. It's just a really fluke thing, and we'd gone over it, and it was in the second year of operation that I found that, and we'd been over it every square inch. So sometimes it's a needle in a haystack to trying to find, and kids literally don't know where they cut their feet when it happens.
So it's 5 years and it'll begin to fade, but maybe we can make it last longer than that?
Yeah, I anticipate we'll be past 5 years easy on this liner. Yeah, I do, but I can't promise them.
Obviously,
I
yes,
can't.
You said the goal was to have it for season this year. Is that something that this company thinks they can meet?
Yes, right. Our timing was perfect, and I believe the Schweitzer company's a little hungrier. Their schedule works better for them to make this happen. And I should remind everybody that we don't just have opening day. We have water stabilization that occurs. We also have to have a week of training for lifeguards since we train in-house. So that really pushes us, and we have to get on this pretty quick. And then if you read through the specs, there's temperature parameters they have to follow. So there's quite a bit that has to make this happen.
I'll make a motion to approve the installation of the new pool liner from the A.T. Schweitzer Painting Company.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second regarding an agreement to resurface the pool with A.T. Schweitzer. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is information reports. Matt, do you have one?
No report.
Thank you. Chris? Thank you. Mark?
No report.
Thank you. Chief?
No report.
Thanks. Tom?
I'll be the oddball out.
Okay, thanks.
If you drive 12th Street in the school, through the school zone tomorrow, you might see our new mid-block crosswalks that are there by the daycare. Finally got those installed today. Once we get our paint striper, which should ship at the end of this month, we'll put a new crosswalk down at the crossing, and then new striping along 12th Street there. We've also ordered the four-way flashing LED stop signs at that intersection.
Good.
And also, one more thing, the decorative street light that in downtown that was hit back in September, it's due to ship on the 17th of this month, so.
To ship on
To
that
ship.
day? Okay,
So, yeah, we'll get it installed thereafter.
yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Kim? Scott?
Just that we are working on a couple of things. Tennis court, obviously, for the resurfacing, and more importantly, with time frame is the 4th of July celebration. So you'll see something probably in the newspaper, hopefully pretty soon, for it going out for bid. And then that's a challenge in itself to try to get accurate bids on. So we'll see what we can come up with.
And the pickleball court, right? The net's going to
So-
go up on that? Has there been
Yes,
questions?
once the weather gets, and I looked out the 10 days, I don't see anything in the next 10 days, but if we had a couple of nice weather days, we'd get the lines down and then we'd put the nets up. So that way, when it's warm, people can start playing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rachel?
We went to the Chamber of Commerce banquet since the last
Yes.
meeting, right?
I
Yeah.
was going to mention that.
Yeah. It was super nice, and I just want to congratulate the Chamber on a great year and a really nice banquet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No
Kelly?
report.
All right, Jim? Tracy?
No report.
Pam?
No.
Same for me. The chamber did a great job. Went to their gala. It was good to see the businesses that got awards, and the chamber just did a really, really fantastic job. That's all I have. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There you go. I have a motion. Very close there. Have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
There won't be anybody discuss the